Right from the Seattle Seahawks, and you are watching NorbCam.
This is Walter Jones, Pro Football Hall of Famer, top 100.
Tyler Lockett from the Seattle Seahawks.
DK Metcalf from
Nate Burleson. You're watching NorbCam.
NorbCam. You're watching NorbCam.
What's up, everybody? This is NorbCam coming at you with another Bleacher Report live stream, end of the season live stream, as it turns out, as the Seattle Seahawks defeated the Arizona Cardinals down in the desert to get the final win of the season. Unfortunately, the Packers didn't do us any favors. The Packers defeated the Chicago Bears and as a result, knocked the Seahawks out of the playoffs, ending the 2023 season. So, sad mixed emotions on this day, being that we will be heading back to the couch to watch the playoffs from home and not seeing the Seahawks in the playoffs. A rare thing, given our track record over the years with Pete Carroll. This is only the fourth time that we haven't made the playoffs. Since 2010, since Pete Carroll joined the Seahawks, we missed it in 2011, missed it in 2017, 2021, and now here in 2023. So we're going to talk a little bit about this Seahawks-Cardinals game and talk about the next stage for the Seahawks. What's next now that the season's over? A lot of questions, a lot of people calling for certain people's heads. Pete Carroll, definitely one of them. Geno Smith, often talked about. But let's really get into it and discuss where are the real issues with the team and what changes really need to be made. I've got some thoughts on it I want to share with you guys. But we got to start by at least recapping what happened in this game between the Seahawks and the Cardinals. So let's do a quick little recap right now. A few highlights courtesy of Seahawks Twitter. All right, this is really just lost, ultimately lost the game themselves. I did say before this, when I was predicting this game, I said, pretty much you give me the Seahawks with 20-plus carries, preferably 25, and over 125 yards on the ground, and we'll win the game. And there we did. 25 carries, 138 yards. So I proved my point correctly that we did actually win the game when we hit those numbers. Really, the only reason we won that game is because Prater missed 2 field goals, and one near the end of the fourth, near the late part of the fourth quarter, missed the go-ahead that would have put them up 2 scores. Instead, gave the Seahawks the ball with 2 minutes to get that go-ahead drive. And then they still went down the field, got into field goal range with a chance to win it with 1 second left, and Prater missed it again. So, yeah, we got the win, but it felt kind of not only hollow because we had already known that we got knocked out of the playoffs with the Green Bay victory, but also with just the way it went down. It really felt like we should have lost that game. But we came away with it, I should say, and finished 9-8. So, yeah, it was not I would say, as far as the game's concerned, yeah, the same problems arose. Couldn't stop the run, giving up too many big explosive plays. And offensively, I do have to say I was on the positive side. The fact that the Seahawks offense kept fighting. They did have that, once again, amazing go-ahead touchdown at the end to take the lead. Would have been interesting to see if we were in a playoff hunt at that point. Let's say if Green Bay had actually lost that game and then we got that touchdown. Would Pete have still gone for 2 for the win, or would they have played it more conservatively if we actually were playing for the playoffs to win? If Green Bay had lost and we needed to win that game, would they still have been aggressive and gone for it after getting that touchdown? Or did they just do that because they figured, what the heck, we're out of the playoffs, we got nothing to lose, let's just go for it and blaze, guns a-blazing? I feel like if we were really in the hunt still, they would have played it safe and just gotten for the extra point. But I feel like, and I said going into this game, I said for Seattle to win, they should be a little more aggressive. They should go for it when, like on fourth down, if they're like in midfield and fourth and short, they should be more aggressive and not punt the ball. They weren't really that super aggressive during the course of the game, but they definitely were at the end, and it paid off. Again, when you got nothing to lose, it's not that hard of a decision. So that was that. Wanting to move into now just more talking about the game or the Seahawks team itself as we move into the offseason. Looking back at this season, clearly it was a disappointment for a number of reasons. Obviously, we had high hopes after last season. Last season, the expectations were so low, right? Russell Wilson leaves. We lose our franchise quarterback. Geno Smith, no one's really expecting anything great from him. So I think at best, people are expecting maybe 500 or below 500, but more likely like a 4-13 type of record, bottom of the NFC West. And we end up getting a playoff spot, and Geno gets Rookie of the Year. And so we finished 9-8 with a winning record and a playoff berth, and everybody's thinking, wow, we could do that with this team. Then we go out to the offseason and we draft Witherspoon in the corner. Now we're going to have two of the best corners, if not more, in the entire NFL. We get more running back help. We make a move to bolster our interior linemen. Just other moves that we make throughout Jackson Smith and Jigba. So everybody thinks, okay, we should be better this year. And sadly, with all that said, we end up in the same exact spot in the last game of the season, but it actually finishes worse because we get the same record, but we don't get the playoff berth. So expectations were much higher this year and failed to meet them. So it's natural at this point of the year. You want somebody to blame. You want to point a finger and go, he let me down. He's got to go. Now, we all feel that way, right? We all feel like we can't just keep repeating what we just had. We can't just keep the same exact team, coaches, chemistry, and just carry it over. Otherwise, we'll just see another repeat of what we just saw, right? Who wants another 9-8 season where you don't make the playoffs, right? Right in that mediocre, not good enough to make it, not bad enough to get a really good draft pick, just that middle of the road, just sort of staying even. So I do have some thoughts on some of the players and coaches' situations that we may want to look at here. But let's look at some positives, right, on the whole season. Jason Myers, he set a franchise record with 35 field goals made. I mean, that is a great achievement. And I've always been a big believer in Jason Myers. Even when he was struggling, I said, Jason Myers, he had a couple of times when he went through some bad stretches, but never once did I ever say, we need to go get rid of him. People are just so quick to just get rid of the thing that disappoints you. I miss a field goal, get rid of him. So congratulations to him. If he had gotten one more, he would have tied the entire NFL league record, because the leader in kicks was actually the Dallas Cowboys kicker, who had 36. And if Jason Myers had made one more kick, especially the one against the Rams, when we played him the second time down in Los Angeles, we'd be in the playoffs today. That hurts because he missed it by that much. But as it is, it's a game of inches, and unfortunately, we didn't get it. But that's kind of been this season. We've had several games where we missed it by that much. One play here, one penalty that we shouldn't have had, one holding call that killed a drive or extended a drive, one catch that if he just made that catch, got his feet in, held onto it, would have completely changed the game. Let's look at a few positions here that I think many people are questioning here. So the first obvious one, Geno Smith. I see a lot of haters, a lot of people saying we need to get away from Geno Smith. We'll never win a Super Bowl with Geno Smith. Geno Smith is done. He's the reason why we didn't make the playoffs. So let me just throw a few numbers at you here in terms of just Geno's passing. So he had 3,624 yards, 20 touchdowns, 9 picks. In the scope of things, that's not bad. That's like right smack in the middle. I think it's a rank of about 16th. Yeah, in terms of yardage, right smack middle of the pack, literally in the middle of the pack, 16th. And in terms of touchdowns, 17th. So I think it's simple. It's easy to say that Geno's pretty much, not the problem. Now, he was not upper echelon, but he's not the problem either. He's right smack in the middle. I mean, if I compare him and get to yards, Jalen Hurts is 14, Lamar Jackson is 15, and then Geno Smith is 16, followed by Gardner Minshew. So if you were to kind of bunch those guys together, those are two guys ahead of them who are franchise quarterbacks. Jalen Hurts, Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson probably going to be the MVP. And these guys are only 2 spots ahead of Geno Smith in terms of passing yardage. So, can't point the problem and say Geno was the problem there. In terms of touchdowns, like I said, he's 17th with 20 touchdowns. Let's get interceptions. Geno's 17th. Dak Prescott, 1 step ahead of him in terms of number of interceptions, and Justin Fields right behind Geno. So, again, my point being is that Geno was never the problem. He was never the reason why we ended up 9-8, not making the playoffs. We know what the problem is. All right. Now, as a whole, let's jump right into the what I think is the biggest issue. Our defense. Okay. Let's look at some numbers here. Scoring defense, as far as the scoring is concerned, 25th in the league. In terms of yards given up, 30th in the league. In terms of pass defense, 21st in the league. And the biggest one, that most glaring, rushing defense, 31st in the league. Pretty much dead last. And sadly, they were in, I believe they finished 30th last year. So we not only didn't improve, we got worse from last year. And then it begs the question, why is that? Is it the coaching? Is it the players? Is it the head coach? Is it the defensive coordinator? So I like to offer a thought here, because ever since we switched to the 3-4 a couple of seasons ago, that's when we became the worst rushing defense. Now, I know it's a big thing to switch from a 4-3 to a 3-4. We're talking about changing the entire basis of the way the defense is schemed and where the personnel is built. We changed everything from what Pete Carroll, and really it's been a 4-3 for years. And that changed to 3-4 2 seasons ago. Was drastic, huge, and so different from what we had done before. And in my mind, this just isn't working. It'd be one thing if we showed some improvement, like, okay, last year, anomaly, they're still getting used to it. You go to this year and you think, okay, well, they should start to kind of get this thing together, show signs of trending the right way. Like, okay, this personnel, this scheme is starting to come together, but it's not. It's going the opposite direction. And it feels like it's getting worse. It looks like guys are out of position. They can't make the tackle when they do get in position. But, I mean, it is bad. I don't remember seeing the defense this bad when just observing back since I remember 2002. We're making a comment about how this defense is like a hot knife through butter. Just gashing. Holes here. Nobody making stops. And we have not seen the likes of this for years. Maybe even a decade, right? I mean, this bad. And so I don't know if this means, we need to bring a different defensive coordinator in, or we just, we got to keep what we have and drastically change it. But whatever it is, clearly isn't working. And I feel like something drastic's got to change. And that's whether you change the D coordinator himself, bring somebody in and we retool the scheme, or something, but something's got to shake that side of the ball up, because that is clearly the biggest issue that this team has had and why we are not in the playoffs. Just to go back to the offensive side of things, from a scoring standpoint, our offense was 17th in terms of yards, 21st, passing yards, 14th, and rushing yards, 28th. Again, back to the running game and the running concept. It's been the whole Achilles heel, and my biggest issue with this team is that we haven't been able to stop the run and haven't been running effectively enough. I think a combination of not enough attempts, but also not being more effective with those attempts. And why is that the case? Well, I do think there are some injury issues. When you lose your right tackle for a good chunk of the season, losing Abe Lucas did not help. We were shuffling linemen throughout the whole year on a consistent basis, so we didn't really have our real linemen for most of the season. It was always, this guy's out. Oh, well, now he's in, and he got back, but no, this guy's hurt. So I mean, it was definitely an issue, and not that any team doesn't go through the same thing, but it was frustrating to not see our line be able to run block more effectively, and also not be able to. I think the combination of when the defense can't make stops, the offense can't commit to the run because they fall behind, and so you got to start throwing the ball. I mean, it kind of goes both ways, but it's not as bad. It's not as bad as what we're seeing on the defense. Like I said, all those numbers on the defense is bottom 5 for practically every category. At least on the offensive side, it's just the rushing part that needs to be improved. I feel like that will get better next year. They don't have to do such a major change. I can't believe that we're already 10 minutes left in this broadcast. Time flies when you're having fun and when you're not in the playoffs complaining about your team. So I think there's a little bit tweak here. I believe we still got our tackles. We're gonna have to deal with Damian Lewis. He's a free agent this year, I believe. So we're gonna have to make a decision about him. Center, we got Oluwatimi from last year drafted. Is he gonna step up next year? So I feel like we're not that far away. I think that's going to get better, and especially if we can keep guys healthy. Kenneth Walker, not too bad. He missed a couple of key games, which was brutal, but he finished 19th in terms of yards, 905 yards in the season, a 4.1 average, which is right smack in the middle. Had he been with us for 2 more games, very possible. He'd been close to 1,000 yards maybe if he could have had a couple of key games. He basically was out 3 games if you count it, because he was in for 1 drive against the Rams, got knocked out of the game, and never came back. So really, he missed like 3 games. So if he could have gotten 30 yards, per game from that point where he got injured, he would have had over 1,000 yards. So Kenneth Walker, I think had a great season, and we just didn't get enough. We didn't give him enough opportunities, and the injuries thing also hurt too. But I want to address the elephant in the room here, the final one. I made a post about this on Facebook, and I want to kind of read this one. But a lot of people saying we need to get rid of Pete Carroll. Should Pete Carroll be fired? And I wrote this very long description. I'm going to read it here just so you can kind of have this to chew on, because basically I wrote, I've been asked if I think Pete Carroll should be fired after this season. And my response is I would not fire Pete Carroll after the season for several reasons. Number one, technically, we're still in a rebuild. We were fortunate. We didn't have to go through a losing season last year while doing it, but we're still in a rebuild now with a fairly young team. San Francisco went through several ugly losing seasons before finally bolstering up their roster into a winner in 2019. We've only had 3 seasons, well, now 4, of missed playoffs under Pete Carroll to this point in 13 years. This is still a relatively young team, still learning how to win consistently. Look at the Patriots. Yikes, full-on rebuild mode, and Belichick is still there, well, for the time being. 2, injuries have been horribly bad for this team this year. Nwosu, Adams, Kenneth Walker, Witherspoon, Jordan Brooks, the offensive line. I talked about that. I don't like to use it as an excuse, but you can't deny the direct impact that they've had on these games. If Keenan Walker stayed in the Rams game in the second one, we'd probably win that, and we'd probably beat the Cowboys too. If Abe Lucas was healthy, we'd probably beat the Bengals. That's 3 wins alone right there, and we're in the playoffs and probably in a pretty nice little seeding spot there, with maybe a chance to play at home. The 49ers lost 3 games when they lost Deebo Samuel and Trent Williams and CMC. Unfortunately, they got healthy, and we didn't when we had to place them. When we had to play them twice in a span of like 2 weeks, 3 weeks. The injury bug has definitely bit us longer and harder than certain other teams. And the third part about my argument why we should not fire Pete Carroll is it's just as much on the players making plays as coaches making schemes. You could drop the perfect play, but if your player loses his one-on-one matchup, it falls apart. You got to make that tackle. You got to make that block, or you got to make that catch. A costly holding penalty here or an illegal contact there have killed drives and extended those of our opponents. Do we blame the head coach for players not tackling? We've had several games we lost because of one play that didn't go right. And it's not always the head coach, or for that matter, the quarterback to blame when a team loses. But they are the easy target. So I think Pete Carroll has earned the opportunity to go out on his own terms, and he eventually will, sooner rather than later. Father Time always wins in the end. But I'd like to see him go out, ideally as a Super Bowl champion, or at least with one more signature postseason victory. So it ain't going to be this year, obviously. Could it be next year? Maybe. But that said, I will definitely be watching next year, but with a much shorter leash on Pete Carroll next year. Now, I want to just add a little addendum to that. There's been some conversation about the defensive coordinator and former coordinator for the Seahawks, Dan Quinn, who's down with the Cowboys right now. If Dan Quinn were to be available and have a conversation with the Seahawks and talk about possibly taking a head coach role, and that time came along during this offseason, that might be the one exception I would make. Not that I'd fire Carroll first and then look for a coach, but if that opportunity was to present itself, I might have to go for that one. Just saying. So I see Tyler Parcher's in watching the stream right now. He asks, is that an Apple Watch? It is an Apple Watch. I have not had a watch in a long time, but I got this for Christmas. I finally started wearing it. So I don't even know how to use it yet. I'm not used to wearing a watch, but I'm going to start using it now. So looking forward to learning what this thing can do for me. 4 minutes left in this broadcast, but that is my take on the Pete Carroll situation. Like I said, the season didn't go as well as it should have. I have these reasons why I don't think he should be fired, but I also feel like next year, again, with 2 bad years of defense not performing and now making the playoffs, next year we need to produce. Something's got to come together next year and at least show improvement where it's got to go and trend the right direction. Because it's not necessarily what your record shows or how the win-loss, or even just making the playoffs. I think we all felt like, yeah, even if we snuck in these playoffs, did we really feel like we had a chance of going far? I think based on what we see of our team, we knew that probably wasn't going to be very good. So, and there are other times when you feel like, man, we have a really good team, and it's just too bad we stumbled early, because otherwise we'd be doing some damage. Like, a few teams are out there. Like, we beat the Cardinals, but again, the Cardinals really beat themselves. But the Cardinals right now, if they were in the playoffs, if by some way you were to kind of change time and put them to where they had a chance to make it into the playoffs right now, they would be a dangerous team if they were to play in the playoffs right now. Unlike Seattle, I feel like they're just, kind of like limping to the end with all their warts showing. The Cardinals are showing like, dang, this is going to be scary. And this, changes sort of how 2024 looks like in the NFC West, right? You got the 49ers. I got 2 minutes left. 49ers still looking strong. Rams, who were supposed to suck this year, in the playoffs, solid in there and prepared to make some noise again. No one saw that coming. And the Cardinals, they finished last, but they don't look like the last place team in the division right now. it looks like Seattle looks like the last place team right now, the way things just sort of stack up. That's not a good place to be. So they're going to have to do some work to move themselves up in the division next year. And this offseason is going to be huge. As far as the Geno thing, I got 1 minute to make this point. But do I think they need to get rid of Geno? No. But I do think we got to draft a quarterback. Drew Lock, I believe he's a free agent next year. Could be wrong about that. And it's not because I don't think Geno's not a good quarterback. I think he is. But one, we got to draft for the future because Geno's not going to be here forever. But I think we also got to be looking for the guy in the future. Can we go up and get a guy like, a lot of people, here in Seattle want Michael Penix. I mean, who wouldn't, right? They're playing the national championship tonight, which I will be streaming, by the way, on my YouTube channel. And wouldn't it be great to get a guy like him who could sling the rock and just precise and, been performing amazingly. Granted, he's got one of the best offensive lines in the country in college, so that helps. You put Penix behind our offensive line. Will he be just as productive? Well, I'd be a little scary to think of the pressure he might be under. That said, though, is it even possible? Right now, they believe we're drafting 16th for next season, for this upcoming draft. So right smack in that middle. Again, right medium part of the line right there. Not bad enough to draft high and not good enough to be drafting low where we're, deep into the playoffs. So what will the Seahawks do? Well, that's the big question. But I do think we have tons more needs on defense to address, even though I do believe we still need to get a quarterback. So how do you reconcile all that? That's why they get paid the big bucks. All right, I got to wrap this up. Time is up. So thanks again for listening and watching. If you want more content, please check out my content at NorbCam on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, X, and Facebook as well. And just a reminder again, I will be live streaming the national championship tonight. So if you want to get a Husky fan perspective during the game and get my reactions as this game unfolds, for the hope that the Huskies could repeat what they did 32 years ago in 1991 against, they played Michigan back then too. It's going to be exciting. I hope for something positive tonight. It would be such a miracle and an amazing season if the Huskies can pull this off. But that is it. Thanks for watching. Appreciate it. And we'll see you next time. Go Hawks.